Hey everyone, good evening and welcome to the new season of and the newly named Thursday Night Hockey Show. I'm Dave Valente, and joining me as always is my partner Travis Rednick. How you doing, Travis?
Doing good, Dave. How are you?
Good, man. How was your summer?
Well, little disclaimer up front. If anybody hears what sounds like a small dog yapping, it is a small dog yapping. I got a puppy. He's pretty cool. His name's Trout. He's a golden retriever, golden trout. Get it? Sorry about that in advance. And if he doesn't stop, I'll have to take him out. It'll only take me a minute. But other than that, man, it's pretty good. Got out of the relationship that was keeping me away on Saturday nights here towards the end of last season.
Well, you're a young man. You're a young man in your how should we say it, rutting years, and free up your Saturday nights, man. So we decided to go Thursday nights.
But so thanks to everybody that watches for accepting my irresponsibleness on the weekends.
Okay. If only you could go back.
Well, I'm already here, Dave, so I'm just going to enjoy while I got it.
I'm just going to live vicariously through you, man. All right, man. Well, so we are into a week away, less than a week away from the start of the 2021-2022 season. It is going to be a very interesting season in that we have the debut of the Seattle Kraken. In the Crack Den in Seattle. So what do you think about the brand new team? What did you think about the draft of the Seattle Kraken?
Why? How? What? I don't think that anybody thinks that they made a single good decision here, except for signing Grubauer, which is it. I mean, that's all.
I think their acquisitions in the summer were good. I mean, I didn't mind the Dunn signing. I didn't mind the Grubauer signing. But that draft was hot garbage.
Dude, the draft, I feel like it was like whenever somebody gets really overconfident while they're playing pool and they get down to where the other person has like one ball and like, man, I'll get him next. I mean, it's not a big deal. Like I'm gonna get it. It's gonna be mine. I'm just gonna, sweep up. And then they just fall flat on their face. I don't understand what front of house was thinking, but if this is an indicator of what the Kraken are gonna be, the Buffalo Sabres are no longer going to be the bottom of the totem pole.
No. I mean, I look at that division and I would not even be surprised if the Kraken make the playoffs out of that division. That division,
with who?
Outside of Vegas and really Vegas, and I mean Edmonton has flashes. Vancouver underperformed last year, but who knows how good they're going to be.
Edmonton has hot flashes other than McDavid. That team is old.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's chances that a team can, three teams have to make it out of that division. And there's a case that can be made that Seattle, if Grubauer plays to his level, if Driedger plays to what he did last season, there's a good chance, I think, that they can sneak in.
Seattle makes it into the playoffs, they're going to be treated as a first week bye.
Sure. I mean, well, if they, let's say the West Division is so inept that they only get 3 teams in the playoffs, they'll be playing, maybe Edmonton, maybe Vancouver, and we saw what Edmonton did to the first round of the last playoffs. I mean, they just completely disappeared.
Canadian teams fizzle out for playoffs. That's, we didn't really get to talk a ton about the Cup. There was no competition for Montreal. There just wasn't. There was little, you had a few little breakaways, but I mean, whenever you're talking a player by player, the best thing that could have happened in a game, it's not a very good game. If you have to pick a player that did something right, it's not a good game. If you look at Tampa, all through the playoffs, I mean, between Coleman and Kucherov and Point, you didn't have to say this guy performed this well.
Sure.
You had third liners that were performing as well as first liners. Montreal had
play it all in the season playing lights out.
Montreal had no goalie and a guy with a bloody eye.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's just the Canadian way right now. I would like to think that this could be the year that Edmonton could break out. I'd like to think this could be the year that Toronto could break out, as long as they fall flat on their face at the end of the first round. I just, I don't think that Edmonton's going to put up a fight as much as I would like for him to. McDavid deserves a cup. No matter what, that kid plays with so much heart.
He's not going to get it.
I wish I could just give him a cup.
Well, he's not going to get it in Edmonton. He's going to have to
He's
move
going to
on
be Ray Bork
somewhere.
He's going to be Ray Bork going from Boston to Colorado and winning a cup at the end of his career.
I don't think he's going to have to wait that long. I mean, I think he's going to get to the end of his contract, or even make a move like Eichel and kind of force Edmonton's hand and say, you haven't built around me enough, and I got to go. We'll talk about Eichel in a minute, but Edmonton is a special case. I mean, they just it's really McDavid, Draisaitl, and pretty much it.
Yeah, and I mean, even anything that they had coming up, really strong defensemen coming up, Ethan Bear, gone.
Mm-hmm.
If they get something that looks like gold, they drop it like it's on fire as soon as they can, unless it's one person, McDavid. I wouldn't be surprised to see Draisaitl end up signing a Erik Carlson style contract somewhere whenever he left Ottawa. I think that's what's going to happen to Draisaitl when he's going to show up. He's not going to have McDavid, and he's going to be hot garbage.
Yeah, struggle bus. Yeah, I can see that. The other big new thing for this season is the return of ESPN to covering the NHL, which has been refreshing this summer, seeing actual NHL stories on ESPN, and then them giving them some airtime. That for the last 15 years, ESPN will only cover a story if it was just completely negative towards the Sabres or towards the NHL in general. Usually it was the Sabres, but
well, and the really nice thing about that, I've spent the past few days with preseason gearing up. I've spent a lot of time trying to watch preseason games, and I thought that I was getting voodooed whenever I found out that it was on ESPN Plus and it was still going to be $6.99 a month. Because I grew up with an NHL that had center ice that was $80 if you followed one team or $125 if you followed the whole season. And I think this last season was like $160 if you won the playoffs. So now I'm paying $7 a month, and I'm actually paying like $14, but I'm getting Disney Plus and I'm getting Hulu for nothing. So I'm really hoping that the availability, and a lot of people already have ESPN Plus because of the Disney and Hulu package. Even if they didn't want it, they just have it. So I'm hoping this could be a good year for hockey in gaining new fans, because people are going to be bored on a Tuesday night. They have access to a hockey game that, is basically going to be the same deal as NFL Red Zone now. I mean, you're getting a quality hockey package for a cup of coffee a month.
And what's going to be cool is that you watch ESPN in the top 10, like again for the last 15 years. Their ESPN top 10 has been like 9 dunks, same play in an NBA game, and now you're going to see some highlights from NHL games. I mean, it would take like just a miraculous goal for that to make the ESPN top 10 the last decade and a half. Now we're seeing, we're going to see, they're going to put money into getting people to watch the NHL because they paid a good amount of money for this package. I think you're right. The fact that it's going to be on all these teams' games are going to be available for a relatively decent price versus what that center ice package, because I've been paying for that center ice package for years, and it's been $50 for me. The only time that they had a cheap price was coming out of the last lockout. But that was only for a half season's worth of games. So I'm really interested to see what see what center ice does in response. Will they drop the price of center ice?
Center ice doesn't exist.
Oh no, I've got center ice. The channels are still on my cable.
Oh, okay. I don't know about the DirecTV thing, but I went through the NHL through NHL.tv, and it reroutes you to ESPN Plus now.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah, it's all ESPN Plus, which is cool. So I'm looking forward to how this changes the viewing public when it comes to NHL, consuming the NHL games and the NHL product. So
Well, I mean,
but
over the last 6 years, if you had center ice, you paid almost $1,000 to watch hockey.
yeah, and I did
It's,
because I'm a big hockey fan.
right.
I don't just watch the Buffalo Sabres games. I probably would have given up long ago if it was just watching the Buffalo Sabres games. I'm a fan. I watch West Coast games. I watch, if I'm not going into work early, I watch those West Coast games. I'll check out the big battles, the rivalry games. I'd watch a lot of the Canadian games. It's you know, it, I'm just I'm stoked that it's going to be something different than the center ice package that I've been used to. So,
Oh, yeah.
and the other part of that is that TNT is starting their coverage, and I think they got some of the better commentators out of it. They've got Eddie Olczyk, they've got Kenny Albert, they've got I think Darren Pang is doing it as well. Um, I think but ESPN is going to be doing a lot, kind of taking over what Fox Sports used to do with their regional packages. Um, they're covering. You're going to see most of your local talent calling the games rather than having. They're going to have a few national broadcasts, but not as many. But they're going to have the lion's share of those local broadcasts going out on their platforms.
Yeah. And, like I was watching, I think it was TNT the other night. Wayne Gretzky for opening night
Yeah,
is a guest commentator.
he's
That's not
fine.
something that we've seen. Not big deal stuff like this.
Well,
I just,
ESPN responded by bringing in Mark Messier.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that this is going to be, you're going to have a lot of returning fans because they're going to be listening to commentation from guys that they grew up with. Maybe they got out of hockey. Maybe they forgot to care for a while. It's so much more accessible. It's so much more interesting. It's not, like for me, I mean, I love Tyson Nash and Todd Walsh.
Yeah,
I always will. The
they're
Arizona
quality. Yeah.
commentators, I love them. If I'm listening to somebody else's game, I don't care about your hometown hero that won a cup in college. Tyson Nash was not a good hockey player. I mean, he existed for a while. Uh, Todd Walsh, I don't know that the man knows how to lay skates, but now they're bringing in these big caliber names, and it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say from a player's perspective because they have the success to back up their word. If Mark Messier says he's skating wrong, the man's skating wrong.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Speaking of broadcasters, this is the final season of Rick Jeanneret calling Buffalo Sabres games. The last 10 seasons have been long enough for him. He's getting up there in age, and he's in his 80s, and he survived throat cancer a few years ago. But the dude's a legend, and the way this franchise is going, you're not surprised that they weren't able to win a cup for him. But the fans will always remember Rick Jeanneret. That it's sad to see him go out on this team.
Did you see Edmonton's new locker room statue?
No,
I forget what the kid's name was. Well, I actually wasn't a kid, but the guy that had Downs,
yeah, the Down
they would
syndrome.
always high five him on the way out that died last
Yeah.
year. They have a life size bronze statue of him at the exit of the home locker room now.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
got his hand out so the guys can high five him.
That's excellent. Yeah, he was a long time. I mean, he was kind of an assistant locker room person.
Morale coach.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he would do laundry and stuff like that, and was there for, gosh, I think 2 decades. Doing that job and the hype coach for the team going out on the ice and
Yeah. Well, I
that was
watched
that.
Edmonton's game whenever he died. I mean, I bawled, dude.
Yeah.
I was like that team loved that guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was tough. But that's a cool move. I'm appreciate that they did that. Speaking of my Sabres, the Eichel clusterfuck. I was
How's your
thinking,
back feel?
geez, I mean, yeah, I was thinking going out of last season, yeah, we're going to lose Eichel. I was hoping we wouldn't lose Reinhart. I was nonplussed about whether we'd lose Ristolainen. Ristolainen was pretty much the only physical player on the team, so I mean, I wasn't excited about losing him, but what we got in return for Ristolainen was pretty decent. I mean, we got a first round draft pick and a current NHL defenseman. Um, that's a really good return for a guy that's been kind of the whipping post for the Sabres for several years.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario for you guys.
The trade for Reinhart was not as excited for, although I hear really good things about Devin Levi, the goaltender they got from Florida. He was the one who kind of stood on his head for the Canadian team in the juniors last year, and kind of came out of nowhere. He's a U.S. collegiate goaltender out of Northeastern University. Perhaps if he could be a goaltender of the future, I don't know. It's still way too early to tell. And then the conditional first round draft pick, I wasn't really happy with that return for Reinhart, who really proved himself last year of being a really solid player. Was on pace for, in a full season, he probably would have been on pace for about 40 goals. He got about 30, I think, for a bad Sabres team. But to have Eichel still injured and still on the Sabres is, I mean, I get that we're trying to get the maximum out of him, but this is going on way too long. This is kind of a shitter got off the pot type thing. One side's going to have to budge at this point. Eichel, let's just say that Eichel's lost almost 2 years out of his career.
If they keep this up, Eichel's not going to have a career.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Eichel's going to be another Paul Kariya story.
Yeah.
Except without the success before the injury.
Yeah. He's got to. I hear that there's movement on the issue the last couple of days, that some teams are poking around, teams that are going to be comfortable with him getting the type of surgery that he wants for his neck. The problem there is that he wants a disc replacement surgery that's not been done on an NHL player. It's a little bit more risky, but it's a better long-term surgery. And the Sabres want him to go with a more proven surgery, which is a disc fusion surgery. Which does have more long-term issues for Eichel. I don't blame Eichel for wanting to get this surgery. I think he should be able to get this surgery. But, the way that the CBA is written, the Sabres have the say in how he can treat himself. And they don't want that surgery, because if the surgery goes wrong, they get nothing. But at this point, they're getting nothing out of him either. So
yeah, no, he's just dead white.
Yeah. But yeah, he's 2 years because he played 20 games last year. He missed all of that time because the Sabres were eliminated and didn't get to play in the play-in round and all that stuff. So, at this point, he's not going to be able to play the Olympics, which was what he was wanting to do. If he gets the surgery, he's probably gone 6 months. So, he's it's going to be 2 years that he hasn't really played in the NHL. And every day that he doesn't play in the NHL, he gets less and less value.
Well, and this isn't going to be a front of house he's going to want to perform for, even if they do fold and let him get the surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, his public enemy number one is the guys saying, no, you can't. So definitely take that into account. I mean, I wouldn't want to. If you just spent 2 years of my career paying me but not letting me do my job,
yeah,
I don't want to play for you.
Well,
I mean, like you.
I think he would play in the fact that he knows that any games that he plays before the trade deadline raises his trade value, and well, it actually gets teams really interested in dealing for him.
And I think that any team that's going to look at him is going to know that he's not going to play for Buffalo. He's a true wild card right now on whether or not he will show up. I wouldn't personally. You know, it's just if you've screwed me that hard that long, I'm not interested in performing. I don't care if it costs me my career or not. I already have $20 million.
Yeah, I mean, and he could just sit there and not play, and collect the rest of his $50 million from the Sabres.
Yeah, and then just go through the whole process. Sign a slightly above entry-level contract under the premise that he can perform, and it's known. 1 year with a team that actually deserves him. You know, pull a Taylor Hall in Boston. Because Taylor Hall came from us, you know, didn't do anything for us, didn't do anything for you, went to Boston and blew up. He finally landed somewhere he wanted to.
Well, somewhere where he wasn't the first line center. He's not playing against the top defenseman of another team. He's he's in a better situation than he was in Buffalo or Arizona
or Jersey.
Or Jersey. Yeah.
You remember that Jersey team? We all thought that Jersey team was going to be like the best thing ever.
Oh, I know. They brought him PK Subban.
Everybody thought that Jersey team was going to be a Stanley Cup winning team for 2 or 3 straight years. They come straight in, fall flat on their face, man. That Jersey team was so bad.
That team imploded, man. It was crazy. Speaking of wild cards, the entire Evander Kane saga this summer. Evander Kane gets, finishes a very troubled season in the fact that he was filing for bankruptcy, owes like $26 million to several creditors, and as soon as he gets off the ice, then there start stories from his estranged wife that he is gambling on NHL games. Now, the NHL did research this, and they found that there's no credible evidence that he did bet on Sharks games or bet on hockey games. But there is, in announcing that, they said, we're also investigating other claims of domestic abuse and domestic violence.
And that's where it gets less funny. Yeah. She basically came straight out and said that he'd just get drunk and rape her. Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of concerning issues, but here's the thing that I have concerns with her story is that she makes that story and she never corroborates the story with the NHL that he was betting on games. She never offered one bit of proof, and she never actually sat down and testified with the NHL about what he did. And then when it became clear that the NHL was not finding anything to corroborate the story, that's when she came out with these stories about his alleged sexual assaults and domestic violence and all that stuff. I honestly hope it's not true. I hope that he never did anything like that to her.
There's a lot of concern on a lot of levels here, though, because there's definitely 2 types of women that end up with professional athletes. One is good standard women, and the other is I will do anything for money. And her name's out there like a lot, like Monica Lewinsky getting a clothing line a lot. That's, like you said, I mean, there's no backing anything for anything that she said. And she started small and then she went straight for the throat with, a Me Too style punch.
And I think if she had said all of this at the beginning, like, he's betting on hockey games, he's, getting drunk and raping me, he's doing all this, and that, she just dumps it all out at the same time. I think a lot of more people would have lent a little more credence to these stories. That she waits until he gets clear of the one charge and then hit. I mean, to me, betting on hockey, I don't care. I really don't care.
I could see if you're betting on your team.
Yeah, I could. But honestly, I just don't care because it's a team sport. And he had like his best season last year. Like statistically, he had one of his best seasons as a professional last year. So there was no real evidence that he was throwing games. And the Sharks were just bad last year.
Yeah. If he was,
And
everybody was in on it too.
yeah, and it to me, I think that the sexual assault is a much more damaging story. I mean, if you look at what happened to Trevor Bauer at the Los Angeles Dodgers, I mean, that guy's probably never going to pitch again in the major leagues because of the allegations that he's facing. And if she'd come out with those straight out of the bat, then yeah, I'm thinking that Evander Kane maybe never plays again. That may be the case now because I mean he's just had trouble after trouble after trouble in his NHL career, and he continues to kind of poke the bear as he continues to do his stuff.
I could see him being a KHL buyout.
Sure.
Just to look what we got, we own all your bases type deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I he's going to make money somewhere, and if he makes it
He's
overseas,
going to have to, dude. He's going to prison if he doesn't.
well, if he's in Russia, he's not coming back. So,
Well, that's like who is a dual citizen of Russia now that you would never expect? Roy Wood Jr. Roy Wood Jr., the boxer,
really,
is obsessed with Russia and Russian culture. A Black American boxer from Philadelphia.
well, I mean that
Lives in
makes
Russia half the time. Well, he went to Russia for a few fights. He would walk down the street. They treat him like a god. Everybody knew who he was.
yeah.
It was this huge deal because, they're obsessed with American culture way more than Americans are. And he was on Joe Rogan talking about living in Russia and how much better it is. And he spends the majority of his time in Russia. His kids spend the majority of their time in Russia. He owns a housing development in Moscow.
Crazy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Americans that end up going to Russia to be gods.
Hey, some people kind of run away from that, but if that's your, if that's what you want, then more power to them. Kind of related to the Eichel story, though, was this week Robin Leonard, goalie of the Vegas Golden Knights, gets on Twitter and starts making hay, starting to saying that he's frustrated by the treatment of Eichel and the treatment of NHL athletes in general, basically being treated as parts on an assembly line or robots. And he accused NHL teams of giving players benzodiazepine or diazepine and Ambien. And he was frustrated at the Sabres for how they handled his ankle surgery a few years ago. And he said that he was going to start releasing stories every day of the week, every day until there was some kind of movement on allowing players to be able to seek the treatment that they want rather than making it a team decision. It kind of fizzled out the last couple of days that, he got talked to by the NHLPA, he got talked to by the NHL. He seems to be in a little bit better place with both. But, he had said a story about Alain Vigneault, and it made it sound like Alain Vigneault was giving drugs to his players, and that he had to kind of walk that back the next day. But I think this is going to be a much bigger issue. Today we hear the story about Carey Price now going into the player assistance program. His wife mentions the mental health toll coming back from his injury. This is going to be an interesting. We were talking about this pre-show that we haven't seen this level of focus on mental health issues ever. I mean, you see this summer with Simone Biles. Michael Phelps was kind of the forefront of athletes needing mental health resources. So he's been, pumping a mental health app. But yeah, I mean, mental health is becoming a much bigger issue in professional sports than it has ever been before.
Well, and I really wonder, whenever you get on the topic of mental health, if this would have happened in 98, would we still have Bob Probert? Would we still have, Bugard in 06, 07? There's a lot, especially that class of player. There's a lot of guys that fought for 2 or 3 seasons, left the NHL to go play in Russia, and ended up committing suicide later.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe we wouldn't have been a little bit better, more capable of taking care of those guys if things would have turned out like this,
It's really they're going to have to figure out how to fix CTE. And there's no cure for CTE. I mean, that's just a degenerative brain issue that, that plaque builds up on the brain and it causes, affects their judgment, brings on suicidal thoughts and things like that. I hope that they can fix it. And I hope that they can use this to prolong athletes' lives post sport, because we're losing way too many of them way too early.
Yeah, and I would say that a big issue with Carey Price is, I'm not a Montreal fan, but I know a lot of Montreal fans, and I'm on a lot of Montreal pages. And Carey Price was held directly responsible by Montreal for losing the Stanley Cup. And if you look at how much, I know it's BS all the way around.
Yeah,
but they have to have somebody, and he's easy.
Oh no, he's been their whipping boy for years.
So you look at how much love Carey Price has put into Montreal, staying in Montreal, signing poor contracts in Montreal, giant offers elsewhere, doesn't want to move his family. He wants to be there. His entire world just turned on him.
Yeah.
Because he's the biggest name on the team. I mean, the guy can't do everything by himself,
I mean, he got them to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, that's a miracle in and of itself. I mean, he saw that team coming out of the regular season. It was hot garbage, and then they managed to get a 7-game win over Toronto, and they were just kind of off from there. I mean, they blew through Winnipeg, surprisingly blew through Vegas, and then just ran into the juggernaut that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And,
yeah, which it's the final. Nobody else could beat the Lightning either.
Yeah, a team that was $17 million over the salary cap as well. But I digress. We'll get on.
A team that complained about the salary cap loophole beforehand.
Yeah.
Disclosure,
Another story that happened this summer, the Carolina offer sheet to Jesperi Kotkaniemi. This smacks of revenge for last year's offer sheet from Montreal to Sebastian Aho. And, the Carolina Hurricanes were kind of forced to pay Aho a little bit more than they wanted to. And I think that they were thinking, well, we'll be too cute by half and put in an offer sheet on Kotkaniemi, and they'll be forced to pay a little bit more for him. And Montreal is like, no, you can have him. I mean, they benched him during the playoffs. I mean, this is supposed to be one of their better offensive players, and he kind of disappeared in the playoffs, and they benched him for a few games, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. If Montreal fans were looking for some folks to kind of get onto,
front house
was much more of an issue than Carey Price was. But
well, Carolina's just been making all kinds of poor decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, Carolina did a full 180 on acquisitions and trades. Nedeljkovic. No.
Dumbest move I saw this summer. Like, why are you trading Nedeljkovic?
That's the stupidest move I've seen in hockey in 5 years.
If you were going to get rid of goaltenders, and they did end up getting Peter Mrazek out of Carolina as well,
who needed to go.
Who are their goaltenders? Who did they sign? I can't remember who they signed.
Nobody.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just they didn't. And the weird thing is now, like, I hate to say this, Detroit has that, which is pretty big. I mean, Nedeljkovic is going to be a Hall of Famer. So Detroit,
I don't go that far on one season, but he's a
I'm
good
going
quality.
for it.
He's
Going
a
straight.
good quality goaltender.
He's
And
consistently good. That's what I love about him.
yeah,
He doesn't have good game, bad game. He's just good.
well, and we'll also, I mean, we have to see because he was playing on a much better Carolina team than he will be playing on a Detroit franchise that has been struggling the last few years.
But Detroit's made a bunch of sneaky moves in their favor, like Jacob Vrana.
Well, who's injured, so he won't be starting the season.
Yeah, but they have good picks. I mean,
Yeah,
their wheels are
most
starting to turn.
Eider,
They were locked up for a few years.
yeah, most Eider is I watched him play against Buffalo a few nights ago, and he's a solid defenseman. I mean, this guy does not look like a rookie. But he was playing, I guess, in the Swedish league last year against adults, and was I think the defensive MVP of the league. So he's got some bona fides coming over to the North American game. But again, he's a rookie, so he will probably have games where he looks like all world, and he'll probably have games where he looks every bit of rookie that he is. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that Detroit is moving from the back forward.
yeah,
And,
they're on the right path right now,
which isn't something I expected to see from Detroit with Steve in house. He's good at taking over a team. He's not good at building one.
Well, I mean, he's getting there. He's getting there. Again, he's in a tough division. That's the problem with Detroit right now is that this is a very top heavy division right now.
Well, Detroit doesn't need to win games right now.
No,
There's no reason for Detroit to win games. They need to make good decisions so they can win games later.
Yep.
And I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're building a good team right now. And I wouldn't be surprised, say, next year that they're in the mix for the playoffs. And 2 or 3 seasons down the line that they're, a contending team.
And also another big off-season news piece. Arizona will not be getting their contract back with Gila River.
Yeah.
So right now our two options are to move in with our little brother in college, ASU.
Yeah, but that arena only has 5,000 people in it.
Yeah, and sleep on his couch. Or
can we crash with you, man? Maybe you guys gonna have a kegger?
No, we're gonna go to sleep early. Let them have the fun.
Oh, have you ever been to Arizona State?
No, I wish.
Oh my goodness! When I went out there for a tournament, it was the number one party school in the country.
Yeah, well, I was a bouncer at a bar at WVU. So,
did you set any couches on fire?
Yeah, actually, I wrote a letter to the dean of the school not too long ago to appease the couch burners. They just need a giant brass couch on the sidelines, and every time that West Virginia gets a touchdown, it has flames that come out of it.
Nice.
Just to pay homage to our roots. It definitely would stir up a lot in T-shirt sales. I saw the burning couch, photo opportunities with a burning couch, less people feeling the need to catch a couch on fire because there's already a burning couch. If Carlson can rename a baseball team the Dirty Birds,
yeah,
we can have a burning couch in Morgantown.
Rename the West Virginia Black Bears to the Burning Couches.
Yeah, man. We don't need Mountaineers. Appalachian State has the Mountaineers. Let's do something special.
There you go. You could have like a concert festival at Milan Pushkar and call it Burning Couch instead of Burning Man.
And we already have the drugs and booze.
Yeah, shit, man.
It'd be like Burning Man, except there's no acid, just meth.
but good. No, not even good quality meth.
Doesn't that just sound like a DEA trap?
Yeah.
No, all the good quality meth comes from Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'll watch A&E. I get it.
I live there, so. um, yeah. So the future of Arizona. What? So do you think this is kind of the death knell of the Coyotes
Uh,
in the desert?
I think the next move that we're going to see is within the next. We have 2 years left. Within the next 2 years, there will be a surprise arena game in Kansas City,
Mm.
and that'll kind of be the beginning stages of moving. Uh, Kansas City's a city that's growing rapidly. They don't have a hockey team within 8 hours. Um,
Oh no, they got St. Louis. That's like 4 hours.
is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's about 4 hours. I used to live in St. Louis.
Huh. So I was through St. Louis going to Springfield all the time. I always thought that it was like way further. Anyway, um, they
But
don't
still,
have.
it's a haul. You're not going to
Yeah,
go to a night
they
game
have a
for a week.
yeah they have a minor hockey history.
Mm-hmm.
They have the Royals are doing. They're still in the MLB, but hey, the Kansas City Chiefs, man, they're doing great.
Yeah.
So I think that the next logical step, I would say that they would go to Houston or Austin. Houston already has said, we don't care if we have a hockey team. We don't really want one. We don't want to take up the space. Um, Austin, I don't think is growing quite fast enough to make the league happy. The only other place, well, yeah, it's growing very rapidly. I think the only other place really that I would say that I could see Arizona end up would be in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's deserved an NHL team. I mean, if I didn't know anything about hockey and you said where are the original 6 teams from, Milwaukee probably would be a city that I would name.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin does have a long, long history with hockey, and it makes sense to put a team in Milwaukee. Especially
But
you've got Minnesota and Chicago very close.
the problem with Milwaukee, and we're already in the Central Division, so that would work.
Yeah,
But the problem with Milwaukee, have you been to Milwaukee?
I have not been to
It
Milwaukee.
is tiny. Milwaukee is a small city and it grows straight up. So my first experience in Milwaukee was uh, just absolute tight quarters driving. Pulled into a parking garage in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. If I would have been in a truck, I couldn't have got in this parking garage. It's not possible. If I'd have been 6 inches wider, it wouldn't have worked. I mean, I crawled up the screw to get to the top. I go to the top. There's a homeless city on top of a parking garage. I get in the elevator to go through this tells you what kind of place it is. To get to the elevator on the top floor of a parking garage, I walk through a lawyer's office.
All right.
So you'll be walking down the street in Milwaukee, and there are people selling food like bodegas out of the front room of their apartment because there's nowhere for stores. So I wonder if Milwaukee could ever afford the space. Now there is a giant spot right beside where the Brewers play. That's just an open field. I don't know why it's there. I haven't been there in a while. It might be grown up now too. It's been 4 or 5 years, but I mean they'd have to work fast. But I could see.
Well, and they've got the NBA arena there for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, but I don't think that they would share it.
Well, they already
Sharing
share it with the
arenas.
Admirals, don't they?
Do what?
They already share it with the Admirals, don't they?
I don't think so. I think the Admirals are on the other side of town.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the Admirals where they play, I'm pretty sure it's like what you would expect from an old AHL team. It's a small place, maybe 5,000 seats.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's better than trying to go in halvesies with ASU.
Yeah. Yeah.
And NHL teams don't like to share. Philadelphia has complained for years about the 76ers being in Wells Fargo with the Flyers. And even whenever I go to Wells Fargo, because I go up for Arizona games to Philadelphia, and there's a very clear divide between even like the staff.
Yeah.
You don't see a Flyers logo on the staff. It's all 76ers stuff. I think that Milwaukee would kind of be the same city. They do have such a good basketball team.
Yeah.
They don't want to share. They don't have a reason to. So I'm saying Kansas City or Milwaukee within 3 years. I mean, Arizona can't sit a season out. Maybe they'll figure something out for a year, but just to even move the equipment into somewhere like that and then try to schedule around NBA games, I wonder if we couldn't see something weird where Arizona lives on the road, playing road only, and taking off nights at
I would
arenas.
think that they get at least a temporary, allowance to move to. I mean, well, let's say that they, kind of like how the Saints got to move temporarily to San Antonio when the Hurricane Katrina happened, or Jacksonville this year. Just so that they can have a home base to play out of. And then it will allow that city to kind of try out as, we want to be an NHL city. Maybe they rotate between Kansas City and Austin or Kansas City and Milwaukee, and whoever supports the team most gets the team, that type of thing.
That's kind of what we saw in Vegas, right? With the Vegas Raiders football.
Yeah.
It was speculated that Vegas could do well for football team, and then it was between them and LA, and they kind of duked it out over it.
Yep.
And then, of course, the Rams ended up going to LA instead,
and Chargers.
Yeah.
That was stupid.
It's become the New York City of football.
Yeah, but nobody likes the Chargers. That's the sad thing. All their fans are in San Diego, where they've always been.
Phillip Rivers likes the Chargers.
But so let's talk about some new faces and new places this year. We got the weird story right after the season where, Marc-Andre Fleury, who was Vegas's best goaltender last year, gets dealt to Chicago. And
Chicago is where you go to die. Just ask Bobby Orr.
Well, I mean, yeah, they retooled pretty good this year. I mean, they got Seth Jones out of Columbus. They got
Jonathan Taves is coming back.
Taves is coming back from his bout with long COVID. Hopefully he does well. That'll be interesting to see how he does this season. We talked about Alexander Nedeljkovic going to Detroit, Peter Mrazek going to Toronto. I think those are upgrades in both locations for those goaltenders.
Another.
Didn't Frederick Anderson go to? That's who went to Carolina, wasn't it?
Yeah, Freddie's in Carolina. Yeah, that's another thing, man. I don't think it's a COVID thing. I think the advancement of the game and the advancement of the speed in the game. Even Gretzky said that he couldn't keep up with the speed of today.
Oh no.
Goaltenders are not getting better. There was a time in the 80s where Billy Smith was a good goaltender, which really says something. And then the 90s, you had new equipment. You had, the rise of the hybrid stance and the butterfly was getting more popular. And you had goaltenders go from 0 to 100. I mean, you had shutouts. You never had shutouts. This is
the league went from,
a huge deal.
10 goals a game to 1-0 battles.
Yeah.
2 goals was like a high scoring affair.
Right, especially in the mid 90s, and you had the different trap defenses and stuff like with Jersey and Brodeur, but now, it's like the mid 2000s. Goaltenders kind of leveled off, but skaters did not. Skaters continue to advance. They have better training. You have guys like McDavid, and one of the craziest dudes to ever watch is McKinnon. If you watch his routine, his daily routine, the guy hasn't ate a cheeseburger in like 15 years.
Yeah.
It's just, these people are nuts, and goaltenders can't keep up. So we're starting to see the guys that they adapted with skaters coming up, and they learned how to work around these skaters. But now you have guys coming into the league, and there's nowhere for them to learn how to go up against these guys. You can't play in college and play against a McDavid.
No,
It just doesn't happen. So
because these
now,
guys are coming out and going right into the NHL. I mean,
right,
there's no. I mean, unless you may see them for a year or two when they're like 18, 17, 16 and 17 in the Canadian leagues. Yeah, you're not going to see them until they're in
right.
the
So, now, and I used to complain about this, especially last year. I complained about it a lot because I didn't fully comprehend what was happening. Um, the fall of goaltenders. A good goaltender now is a mediocre goaltender in the early 2000s because everything's so high scoring. So things like save percentage, the average save percentage in the leagues went down an enormous amount. Um, the average amount of goals a game has went up an enormous amount. If there was ever a time in the NHL to play the over, it's this year
Oh yeah.
because there's no goaltenders anymore, and you've got
Well,
guys retiring left and right.
you also have to talk about the influence of adding two new teams to the. I mean, within the last few years, usually when you have an expansion, you have, you know, it's not just the goaltenders that are not as good as they were, but you also have players playing on defense that are not as good as as a 30 team league. So you're seeing that influence now. It's not the expansion teams that are sucking gas. It's teams like Buffalo who are suffering at this point because
Well, they haven't updated in
yeah,
years.
yeah. They've been stuck in rebuild mode for a decade, and
Didn't
no,
Olmark go to Carolina?
no, Allmark went to Boston.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's see. Dougie Hamilton. Fucking Douglas. God damn it, dude. Doug or Douglas. You're a grown damn man. Went to New Jersey on a massive contract. Got the biggest contract.
Dougie Hamilton just did the exact same thing as Brent Suter.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of him.
But yeah, he's in New Jersey now. New Jersey, they may start. I don't know. They may start coming up. I mean, Hughes impressed me last year in his development between year one and year two. I will be interested to see how his development continues this season. Um, maybe
He's going to hit slightly above average and then fizzle out because he doesn't have anybody with him.
It could be. But let's see who else. Oh, and the other issue was like late RFA signings. Like Darlene didn't get done until the day camp opened. Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes both got post camp starting RFA contracts. Brady Tkachuk is still restricted free agent, hasn't played. We're seeing. I guess maybe it's kind of the influence both of the fact that the offseason is so much shorter, but the flat cap. We're seeing, that push and pull between the RFAs, the guys who think that they should get paid, and the teams that really don't have to pay them just yet.
The players are getting fed up now too. Everybody is. It's just the COVID. I mean, COVID's been such a tension on players that, the league doesn't know what they're doing. They have no idea how to handle this, which I don't blame them. I wouldn't know how to handle it either if I was a professional hockey league in a pandemic. But
yeah, nobody.
But the players are definitely, it's being taken out on them, and they're not happy at all. Which I'm not happy for them. I mean, this is a pretty sucky spot to be in, but
sure, there are two things here that are at play. One, there's a flat cap, so nobody's got the money to toss around on players, and the teams that do aren't really interested at this point in tossing around on players. Arizona's got cap space. Buffalo's got some cap space, and once Eichel's gone, they're going to have tons of cap space. They're not really interested in adding cap space at this point because they want to suck for a year. And then the other factor beyond that is inflation. I'm not going to get too heavy into the economic talk here, but with what's been going on in both the United States and Canada as far as stimulus and all that stuff, the value of the dollars, both the Canadian and the US dollar, the purchasing power of both of those are just sinking right now. So
And
that
that's why I didn't say Quebec City is being a possibility for Arizona.
yeah,
Because everybody's been saying Quebec City, but nobody's going to want to move there.
yeah, a $10 million contract that is, Eichel's what, 10.5 million. And by the end of that contract, that's going to be a middling contract. Well, based off of what inflation is going to do to it. Now, it's also going to impact the NHL as far as our franchise going to be able to make money and survive off of this. If inflation gets so bad that they, one can't raise ticket prices that much because fans will stop coming, or two, the costs of employing players become so much that they can't make money. So there's lots of economic uncertainty when it comes to the NHL. I mean, it was good that they got the TV contracts they did, and the exposure that they're going to get. It's going to be very key in getting them out of post-COVID rebuild. But the economy may determine otherwise when it comes to the future of the NHL and a lot of franchises.
Well, and you're not going to have. I mean, players aren't going to want to move to high tax areas.
Yeah.
I think over the next few years, you're going to see a rapid decline with the Rangers, the Islanders, anybody that's in California, Chicago, areas that are extremely heavily taxed. And then you're going to see a rise of Vegas and Florida teams and places with no income tax because, and cost of living. I mean, you can get the same place in Miami for $2 million that you can get in New York City for $80 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And, teams like, I'm fearful because I think Buffalo would definitely be in a situation where they would have to move somewhere because, one, the tax structure of New York is awful. And two, the industry in Buffalo, while it's coming back, is not to a place where it could support a team that, where a salary cap has to be like 200 million.
Until they get rid of that chucklehead mayor, Buffalo's going to have issues. We're talking about the guy that said that Buffalo wings weren't a meal.
Pastor.
Yeah.
How do you get elected saying that in Buffalo?
You pay off enough people to vote for you.
Well, and there's pretty much
who pays attention to local elections? Nobody cares.
That's a sin. I mean, that's in the
That's
South.
a sin in West Virginia.
Yeah, that would get you talked about in the South. Like that would be a shame on your entire family. That would go like 3 or 4 generations deep.
It took less for Fort Sumter to fire on the Union. Have you met these people?
Who the Buffalo people or the South people?
I've
lived in the South, man. I lived in suburbs of Atlanta. I grew up in the Triad of North Carolina. So I mean,
the Triad will give you Atlanta's not the South.
Atlanta's, yeah. I mean, it really
Atlanta's the dirty South. There's a very distinct difference. You're trying to tell me that pumpkin rice and sushi rice are the same thing? No, sir.
Well, you can tell with the Waffle House who staffs the Waffle House, whether you're in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta, ITP or OTP.
I think that political climate is more prevalent in sports than it ever will be.
Mm-hmm.
And players are going to be a lot more cautious about moving to areas where they have to worry about getting shut down because of COVID numbers, or that's another reason players probably don't want to go to Canada.
Yeah,
because Canada. I have a friend in Calgary. Hi, Jody. Calgary's shut down, and whenever I say shut down, I mean you remember the first month of the COVID shutdown in America.
Yeah,
that's where Calgary is.
I know Calgary. I mean, Calgary became a big political issue in the Canadian elections that just happened last month, because they had fallen back so bad that they had to get shut down. It'll be interesting. I mean, what happens if Trudeau slaps another border restriction? I mean, remember we've got a Heritage Classic that's going to happen in late January, I believe. between Buffalo and Toronto in Hamilton.
It's not going to happen.
I would be surprised if it happens.
As it gets colder, COVID's going to go back up. As COVID goes back up,
And they're not going to play well, we'll do the stadium socially distanced. I mean, the reason why you do that is that you overcharge for tickets and you pack the place and you make a ton of money off of the
And
tickets.
nobody's going to pay that money to see Buffalo.
That and well, I mean, you're gonna pack that because you're gonna have all those Toronto fans. I mean, this is technically it is a home game for the Sabres. I would be surprised if 3% of that crowd is Buffalo. One, I don't think they're going to be able to get across the border. At least the U.S. fans will get across the border. Maybe the St. Catharines fans will come over, but
and also you can't call it a home game if you're in a different country.
Yeah, well,
that's not right.
I mean, they did this to the Sabres the last time. It
was wrong then
when they played the City Series with the Rangers. They were the home team because in the contract for Madison Square Garden, the Rangers can't play anywhere else as a home game. It can only be in Madison Square Garden for a home game for the Rangers. So that was written into their contract. That's why Buffalo had to be the home team for that game. But still, I mean, yeah, and I hope Buffalo gets the revenue out of it. But I think this is all NHL.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a cat. Yeah, hey, Claude. There's a lot right now, and you guys are definitely the whipping post of the NHL. Deserve it or not, it's still wrong.
I mean, in many respects, we do deserve it. At least our ownership deserves it. The fan base, not so much. Fan base has been long.
No fan base deserves what you're going through.
No, I mean,
not for this.
God for the Bills, for Buffalo, for the city of Buffalo. Thank God for the Bills, because if the Bills were still in there, one thing to be said for the Sabres is that, we've only been going through this for 10 years. The Bills fans went through it for 17 years between playoff appearances. But the Bills are a top-notch organization. It's amazing that they're owned by the same people. But, if it wasn't for the Bills, they probably would have burned the city down already.
And I'm going to be honest about this season. I don't really have any predictions. There's nothing makes sense. It's just Montreal went to the finals. Vegas lost in playoffs against Montreal.
It didn't even look like they were ever in that series. That was the crazy thing. I mean, if it was like a 7-game that Montreal won on a fluke goal in overtime, okay. But that Montreal just kind of wiped the floor with them, that was the crazy thing about that one.
Just right now, we have a giant fault in goaltending. That's weird. I don't like it. Everybody's going mobile with trades. Big names are just shuffling a deck right now. That's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, but that's salary cap related.
It is, but that doesn't mean that the league's not going to be more predictable or predictable at all. And we went from Dallas in a playoff appearance to Dallas not making the playoffs.
Yeah, making the finals and not making the playoffs. Yeah,
it's just this is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I do have my predictions. You want me to go through those?
I mean, I would like to think that I have predictions, but I know that I'm going to be wrong because.
Oh no, I'm always wrong.
I feel like right now the Charlotte Checkers could win a cup, and nobody would be surprised. We'd just be like, "Yeah, that's cool. They let them play." It's just, what do you do here?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the Atlantic Division. We're back to our old divisions. I haven't heard that they've stuck them with corporate sponsorship this season like they had last season, which is good.
Although, we got a new one. We got one on the chest now.
The jersey patches now. That Caesars just bought ad space on the Capitals uniform. First one to do it. And I think they got like $5 million per season to put it on. And I think it's just the home uniform.
Yes.
But we still have the ads on the helmets,
which was going away. Don't forget, Gary Bettman said that was a one-season thing.
No, that's all this
It's
stuff.
there forever.
Yeah,
we're going Swiss up in here.
Like just all of a sudden we're going to see like oddly colored face-off circles in the offensive zone.
I hope that you like the United Arab Emirates soccer jerseys because we are quickly on our way. I mean, this is.
But
even at one extra ad space a year, adding one a year in 10 years, that's going to be most of a jersey.
It's going to look like your EuroLeague jersey, and you know what? And as much as I hate jerseys on a uniform, and I'll continue to buy these cheap ones overseas as long as they continue not to have the ads on the jerseys. But if it allows the league to survive and all the teams to survive where they're at until the economy kind of gets stabilized,
I'll tell you,
I'm kind of okay with that.
I would rather have hockey.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the Atlantic Division. This year, here's who I have. The top four teams in the division are going to be Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and Boston.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa's kind of a given. There's not a way that Tampa's not going to be top.
I got Florida top.
I would like to.
I think Florida's added enough that, and I think that they're gonna do well in the regular season. Again, their whole thing is going to be trying to avoid Tampa in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's everybody's. That's everybody in the Atlantic. If you draw Tampa, then you draw the worst card possible. Really, the best thing can happen to the team that goes to conference finals against Tampa is a Game 7 lucky catch against Tampa. Because if you can make it to finals and you go through Tampa to get there, you probably won.
Yeah.
That's just where it is. So,
well, it could be a Pyrrhic victory in that you get so worn down beating Tampa that you drop the next series. But no, I get you. I
beating Tampa will come with a cost. If you can beat Tampa, you've done something. And
the Islanders came really damn close this year. I mean, it was a Game 7 over a shorthanded goal, 1-0 loss that kept the Islanders from going to the finals.
Yeah, but Tampa wasn't even playing.
It was a good series. I mean,
it was an entertaining series. I enjoyed watching it. I had a lot of fun watching those games. I still don't think that they were actually putting a lot of effort in. And then they figured out, oh, wait, we probably should. And then they just kind of nudged a little bit and came back. The Islanders definitely aren't anybody to laugh at right now.
No.
And Anders Lee will be back this year.
Yep.
I think that's going to be a huge victory for the staff, for the players. I don't know really past that if they have anything new coming in that's going to be a big deal.
Not really.
But as long as they just stay on the same path they were on, then they're doing something.
It's a Barry Trotz team, though. But we'll get to the Metro here in a second. What about? So here's my prediction with Toronto. Toronto is going to get bounced in the first round, but I think Toronto is going to have such a problem during the season that I think Kyle Dubas gets fired early in the season.
Yeah.
And because they're languishing maybe out of a playoff spot by either Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they'll bring in somebody who kind of as far as a GM level will kind of right the ship. I don't think they fire the coach just yet. They just give him a new contract.
No, but Dubas is definitely gone.
Yeah, Dubas will be gone, and but Toronto will still get into the playoffs and still lose in the first round. and hopefully
Well,
as
and,
painful as possible.
definitely don't forget that Toronto last year, all those giant moves that they made going into playoffs, they still have a lot of the potential players, right?
Well, no, actually one of the additions to the Islanders, I believe, was what's his face? Oh no, that's Boston. I'm sorry. Foligno left Toronto in the offseason, went to Boston.
That's right. Which didn't he play for? Columbus, and then
Yeah, he played for Columbus, and Columbus got a good.
maybe that's something to watch too, dude.
Yeah.
Boston might.
Boston's a huge question mark. I mean, I could see them missing the playoffs because
Boston has big pieces. They just don't. They don't have chemistry right now.
yeah, they don't have Krejci. Krejci left to the Czech league, like stunning Czech league, and then Rask is not playing the first. He probably won't be back until mid-season. You're relying on Linus Olmark, who had a great season. Had a great season even though we played for Buffalo. Who's a talented goaltender, but the problem with Linus is that he gets injured a lot.
Yeah, he's like Darcy Kemper.
Yeah,
or Antti Ranta. He's really good if he's healthy.
Yep,
and that's a huge if with him.
When he played in Buffalo last year, I mean, he had a winning record for the Sabres last year, and
that's hard.
For that team, yeah, the one that lost, and it's funny because when Buffalo went through that 18-game losing streak, it was pretty much bracketed by the time by Linus Olmark getting injured and then Linus Olmark coming back. They were able to get him back, and he was able to get into the get them winning again for a little while.
You gotta get your food.
You feed him his room.
Get your food, okay?
Hey, Pupper.
Dog. Yeah. The world says hi, Trout.
Yeah. Bottom half of the Atlantic Division. Montreal's just got too many questions to get back into the playoffs. I think.
I'm in, Trout. I'm sorry,
especially with Carey Price and going through what he's going through. If you don't Carey Price, I don't trust any of the other coaches.
He's hungry.
I trust Jack Allen.
Allen is a hit or miss, and I think Allen does better when he has a competent goaltender.
Go on, quick.
He's in a competent goaltending player.
Dog. Allen, somebody at some point is going to step up. And in Montreal, it might be Allen. In Boston, it might be Olmark. But one of these guys that has moved this year in goaltending is going to have to be – you're going to have a success story out of this year. And I think that success story is going to be pretty – it's going to be a big key piece of –
Craig Anderson in Buffalo? No.
I felt the energy leave the room. No, somebody is going to step up. Somebody's going to be really good. And
Trout. Back here. Come here. Get back. You were not let in there. No. Come here. Come on.
Sorry, he's attached to me.
Come on.
He doesn't even care if the food's in the other room. He wants to come sit with me.
Nice.
But he'll just bark until I fool with him, so it doesn't really work.
What are your thoughts on Ottawa?
They're still Ottawa.
Yeah.
Honestly, Dave, half the time I forget that Ottawa's an NHL team.
But they have one of your favorite brother tandems, part of the brother tandem there, sort of. If you ever signed on.
Loved the Tchucks.
Yes.
Actually, we have a Keith Tchuk game use stick now.
Nice. Ottawa's didn't address their goaltending. Matt Murray was awful last year.
Ottawa didn't address.
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't do too much.
Ottawa's just still existing.
Yeah. I mean, they've
That's
got.
another team that I could see moving at some point. Really.
Oh yeah, if the Canadian economy tanks like it did in the late early '90s,
Maybe that'll be your Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And they're not far from Milwaukee, actually.
no, yeah,
I mean, they're not next to Milwaukee, but they're not, they're not like,
yeah. I don't know where you move 'em on the East Coast to keep them in the Atlantic Division though, but Detroit, I think that they're probably going to get, they're going to be better.
Detroit is moving forward.
Yeah, they're going to be better.
Not quickly, but forward.
Yeah. And then Buffalo, just good God.
They exist.
That's debatable.
Your hat says so.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go into the Metro. Who do you got in the Metro?
Washington.
You think Washington's going to come out of the Metro?
Washington. I do. I hate it.
Even with Backstrom injured?
Yeah, I do. I do, because I think the rest of the Metro is declining so rapidly that Washington is going to catch up by default.
I got them third. And
I would,
I'm not even confident about that, but I think problem with you're right. The Metro is declining. I've got the
I think
Islanders.
the Metro is going to fall off fast enough. If the Islanders don't, Washington will, and because it's not going to be the Rangers. I wish it was. I love the Rangers. I love Artemi Panarin. He's been on a steamroll in the negative, dirty sexual connotation. The Rangers suck. They lost Lundqvist. They lost their heart.
Well,
I mean, the Dragon has been slayed.
And Tom Wilson beat them up a second time.
Tom Wilson's going to beat up anybody, and now they don't have Brendan Lemieux.
Yeah, well, so he beats up. Was it Panarin? No, it was.
It was Benajek, wasn't
it? No. It was. It was Panarin, wasn't it? They got enough. He got.
Oh yeah.
And ragdolled him and injured him, and he was out for the rest of the season. Then, in the offseason, Chris Drury, new GM of the Rangers, decides to kind of go Brian Burke and just load up on the heavies. So he trades off like Pavel Buchnevich to St. Louis. He acquires Ryan Reeves from the Golden Knights. I mean, he pulls in a bunch of pluggers, which that's cool if you get like one or two. But I think he went overboard as far as bringing in the pugilist to protect his.
They gave away a great one. Brendan Lemieux?
Yeah.
I mean, last year still, and I said last year that I thought it would be the best fight that I saw. It was the best fight that I saw. Brendan Lemieux fight, Boston, who was it?
I can't remember his name.
It's not a name that anybody cares about. Nobody's going to know it either. Him and Brendan Lemieux squaring up was a true, honest-to-God, Ty Domi, Bob Probert moment. It was beautiful. It was the spirit of dropping the gloves in every way. I could go back and watch that fight anytime and enjoy it. Absolutely. And, I know that we're not on the Pacific, but whenever we are, I have a lot to say about that because I am super excited to see these Kings in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, there's also some news about the Kings today, too. But so I got the Islanders, Hurricanes, Capitals, and Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia's going to have a little bit of a bounce back this year. But I think it's more because the Penguins are going to fall off with Crosby and Malkin hurt.
Stop off and talk to anybody. Go straight in there. Watch out, Cat. Try.
I just don't think that if Philadelphia's going to come up, somebody's going to have to come down. And I think that is the Penguins this year. I think they finally hit that. You can't rely on Crosby and Malkin this season. And they're going to pay for the sins of not having a competent plan to fill around those guys. I mean, Brian Russ is decent, Gensel's decent, but can they carry Pittsburgh to the playoffs? And I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, you're losing a ton with Crosby and Malkin, and you're getting nothing to replace it. And they did have a few quick fixes here and there But, last year was kind of the first year of the decline of Pittsburgh. They made it immediately apparent that they got torpedoed and they tried to patch it with cardboard.
Yeah. There's not much there. They didn't do too much in the off season. So yeah, I think this is the year that they start their decline. I think Malkin comes back in a couple months, and I think at some point this season he gets dealt. I said that last year, but I think at some point this season they're going to be out of the playoffs, and Pittsburgh's going to deal them for some picks to start to move on, replenishing the draft picks. Let's see. The Devils, I said earlier, I thought the Devils were going to be better. I have them like 7th in the division. It's still a struggle for them. But Dougie Hamilton's going to help. It'll be interesting to see who he's paired up with, whether it's PK or someone else like that. The development of Jack Hughes. That'd be another interesting thing to see. And then Columbus is hot garbage too.
Yeah, Columbus makes a lot of weird decisions.
Yeah,
they made a solid attempt to come. Also, gun safes and a dog with headphones. Sorry,
nice.
Quick shift of location. Columbus made a lot of weird decisions with Pierre-Luc Dubois. They trusted way too much in him, with no good reason to. And then, of course, everybody's favorite coach ever, Mr. Italian Pasta himself, Tortellini. I don't know if you ever heard the Tortellini song.
No, I've not heard
that. Tortorella. You should. They sing it at Columbus games now.
Surprised he didn't get picked up this season.
I'm not. You talk about a PR nightmare. It's almost as bad as Montreal drafting Logan
Mayu. Yeah.
Mailman. The mailman, as I'm already calling him. Shipping them off.
Delivering some bad news.
Bad news.
But yeah. Columbus, I mean, that now they've got Line A. They've, paid the price for that bad deal. They shipped off Seth Jones. They got Adam Boquist, who's a decent enough defenseman. They've got some picks out of the deal. They got I just don't think that they're going to be that good. I think they're going to be the rest of the division will be feeding on them. Most of the NHL will be feeding on them. Probably not Buffalo, probably not Arizona, but
Arizona making some good decisions. You know what the best decision Arizona made is?
Galchenyuk?
No. This.
The Kachina dog is back.
The white Kachina, our main logo, is back to the Kachina.
That's awesome.
We are the Kachina again.
Yeah.
And you know what that means? We're going to suck as bad as we did in 97, but we're going to look good doing it.
There you go. That's why we went back to the Royals, man.
I'm thrilled, dude. It's the little things. Whenever you're a fan of a losing team, Dave.
Damn it.
It's a win.
Yeah. No, it's you're right. It's the little things like, getting up and reading the box scores from the night before, and you're like, oh, we didn't completely shit the bed. That's awesome.
Wow. 4-1? That's not a shutout.
4-1, and one of those was an empty netter. Oh, cool. All right, so let's talk about the Central.
Central. Chicago. What do you think of Chicago? Are you that confident that Fleury is going to snow?
Storm? I think Fleury is going to provide them a decent level of goaltending. Again, of course, it depends on whether he stays healthy. But this team last year didn't do that bad until the very end of the season. They kind of fell off.
With
And
nobody. That's the interesting thing. They didn't really have.
Yeah,
They didn't
Malcolm
have
was
anybody.
the goaltender. And now they've got, of course, you have Kane. Kane basically carried the team last year, but he's going to have Taves back. He's going to have, DeBrincat back, Kirby Doc.
Yeah, man, that was such a shame last year.
Yeah,
The wrist injury.
They lost him in the juniors. So there's pieces there that I think will get them into the playoffs. It also helps that I think you're going to see a major regression from St. Louis. I think you're going to see a major regression from Nashville.
So I'm going to go opposite. Nashville is going straight to the bottom where they belong. I think that St. Louis is going to pop back up this year in a big way.
I just don't see it. I think that pressure is going to continue to mount on Craig Bennington with his big contract that he didn't play really well down the stretch after he signed it. And that
Bennington is exactly why I think that they're coming back this year.
Yeah, I just don't. I really just see him as kind of a, he had got lightning in a bottle for that season, was able to parlay it into, they made the playoffs the next year, but didn't get out of the first round. Did it this year, didn't get out of the first round. If they struggle out of the gate, the pressure is just going to continue to mount and mount and mount on Craig Bennington. Because he signed that big contract, that is really going to start weighing on him, and it may become a major issue in St. Louis.
Jordan,
Bennington. Yeah, so we'll see. Winnipeg, I think, takes a step back because they just really haven't done anything.
Yeah, but they still have Hellbuck.
They do.
They still have Blake Wheeler.
Blake Wheeler's like 355 years old.
He's still there.
I mean, they got Scheifele. They got Blake Wheeler,
Scheifele.
but there's just not enough. I mean, I don't see enough on the back end to that's really that exciting. I don't see enough in the forward cores outside of Scheifele and God, I mean, it's hard to even name players on that team at this point. It's just
I know 4.
There's Scheifele, Hellbuck, Josh Morrissey, I think.
Yeah. Well, they've got.
Okay, I got 4.
No, who did they get from Columbus?
Oh, of course, PR, Luc Dubois.
Yeah, Dubois, and actually the one that surprised us. His name starts with an R. I always forget it though.
Oh, Roslovic went to Columbus.
That's right. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, he went to Columbus. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel it with Winnipeg. So I've got Colorado winning the division.
Of course.
I've got Minnesota finishing second, although I think they kind of took a step back this year. I mean, getting out of the Parise and Suter contracts was a good move. But
then Ekman.
Yeah, and the problem is that those were buyouts, and so those are going to continue to hit their cap for double the years that if they just kind of lived with those guys for a couple more years. But they got Kaprizov under contract, and I think that I think last year did a lot for them, and I think that they're going to be able to carry that over for this season. Dallas, I think, will have a comeback to get back into the playoffs. A lot of those guys that were injured last year, and there were a lot of things that just conspired against Dallas. The COVID issue right out of the gate. Then they went
Pavelski injury.
Pavelski injury. Then they had the winter storm from hell.
Radulov had that weird thing going on. He ran out of Russian gas, and they couldn't import it because all those ships were stuck in the canal.
Oh God, that was a story. But yeah, Dallas makes a comeback, and then Chicago, Winnipeg can make the playoffs because I think the West is going to be just god awful. division.
The West is interesting right now because they're going to suck. And then 5 years from now, it's going to be the best division.
Oh yeah, it's going to be back when back to where the LA Kings were doing well, and San Jose and Anaheim were competitive as well, and it'll be a tough division. But at this point, my order in the West is Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Seattle.
Okay.
The top four: Los Angeles, Calgary. Who else is in the damn West? My notes are hiding for me.
Yeah, and
San Jose. San Jose.
The thing that I'm really looking forward to, if the West, really, really looking forward to, we are seeing something happen that has happened. McDavid for 2 first-round draft picks and a decent-ish player. Let's go nail it.
Oh man, I don't know.
I feel aggressive.
I don't think that'll get it done. I really don't.
I think that it's going to be that, or David's just not going to resign.
Well, I mean, he's under contract for a while, so I mean,
he's under contract for like 4 years. But I think that they're going to see the writing on the wall that he's not going to resign in Edmonton.
Yeah,
and that's probably going to be the best offer.
I don't know if he's got a no movement clause or if it's like Eichel where it kicks in after this year.
He'll waive it. He would waive it to get out of there after.
It depends. I mean,
Edmonton declined so hard.
What if it's Buffalo comes calling with 2 first-round draft picks and Darlene and let's say one of the Russian kids they drafted in the second round this year.
I'm saying more. He's going to upgrade one way or another, and he's going to want to go to a young team.
Yeah. But, Edmonton will want to do that because the 2 Buffalo first-round draft picks are going to be high. And Darlene's still got upside. And, the Russian guys that the Sabres drafted this year are all looking really good at this point. So, but I think I don't think we're quite there yet. If Edmonton misses the playoffs, then you can make that case. But if Edmonton's still making the playoffs, and say they knock off, let's say Seattle gets the third position, they just kind of overperform, and it's Edmonton versus Seattle in the first round of the playoffs, and Edmonton knocks off Seattle and moves on to the next round of the playoffs. There's reason for him to stay. But if they're knocked out of their first round exit again, and it's basically because the same team's there and they can't compete in the playoffs because defense gets much better in the playoffs, and you can focus on a player like McDavid, like Montreal did, or like Winnipeg did last year. Maybe he does make that case to get the hell out of Edmonton.
I think that Edmonton's done enough damage to McDavid that he's not going to give him a chance.
I mean, it could. I mean, it's hard because he did sign the contract. I mean, at the end of the day, Buffalo could say, you know what, Jack, we'll let you get that surgery, but we're not trading you. We don't have to. You signed a contract. You're here for another 5 years. Suck it up, Buttercup. You can request trades all you want, but if you decide to play it lame for a season, then and try and get traded out, who's going to trade for you?
Right.
Who's going to trade for a head case?
Taylor Hall didn't have any problem doing it.
Taylor Hall didn't have any problem doing it, and Jack Eichel is much more talented. But again, we're talking about a guy who really hasn't played in 2 years. Or by the time he gets back from his injury, hasn't played in 2 years. Taylor Hall's been fairly consistent. I mean, that's the one thing about Taylor Hall. He's not, injury prone or anything. He's a night in, night out performer. Not the best performer, but digress.
Well, it depends on who he's playing with.
Yeah, I mean, if he's second line, if he's in a good situation, yeah, he's going to be great. But for me, Eichel thinks he has a lot of power here, and he does to an extent, but he doesn't have as much power as he thinks he does. especially he doesn't have the power with it when it comes to the surgery, but he doesn't have as much power with that contract. Kevin Adams is 100% right. He's in control of the process at this point. Even if he gets to the point, Kevin Adams may say, oh well, your no movement clause kicks in, and I think he has to give him like a list of 5 teams, and I'm sure it's gonna be like everything's probably gonna be in the East Coast, gonna be like Boston, New York Rangers, Tampa, Toronto, something like that. Teams that we're not going to trade him to. We're going to like, well, you just play out the rest of your contract.
Watch him put Anaheim on there. Just a big FU.
Hey, well, I trade him to Anaheim. Give me Trevor Zegras. Give me Drysdale. There's some players
still trying to get rid of John Gibson.
Oh, Gibson's too injured. Phenomenal goaltender, but
I know.
He gets a paper cut.
Gibson retired.
Did he?
Gibson's done.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, Gibson's gone.
Well, anyway,
that's why I made the joke, Dave. Come on.
Again, Anaheim's one of the, it's kind of like a civil war.
Put on your postcards or something. You'll sell something for once.
He'd probably do better than Craig Anderson, even retired though. But I think the last 3 of that conference or of the Western Division are pretty solid. Calgary, Anaheim, San Jose. There's going to be a lot of turnover in Calgary at some point. I think Treliving is going to get fired, and they're just going to clear house because that franchise is pretty much just kind of floating right now.
Well, they lost one of the old blood.
Oh yeah, they lost Giordano to Seattle,
which is actually the only part of the Seattle draft that I was like, oh okay,
yeah.
And then everything else.
They drafted the captain.
Yeah, what are you doing? I feel like Seattle drafted so poorly that Boston could have left Pasternak unguarded, and they'd have been like, it's a trap. We don't want him.
We could have left Eichel unprotected, and they wouldn't have picked him. They left Tarasenko on the board. They left. I mean, who did they leave off from Colorado? Like Landeskog.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the one guy I was like, oh yeah, they're going to take Landeskog. That's that's going to be the centerpiece of their franchise.
Dude, I lost the house on that.
That was bad. But again, I think they did enough in the free agency, bringing in Vince Dunn, bringing in Grubauer, bringing in some decent offensive options, that I think that they're going to be a semi-decent team in a very bad division. I think that they're going to feast on the bottom feeders. They're going to get their points on LA, Calgary. LA may be more of a battle, but Calgary, Anaheim, San Jose, they're going to get those points and they're going to be fighting. But the thing with that is I've got them 4th. Again, I could see the West being so poor that they only get 3 playoff teams, and that extra wild card comes from the Central.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the consensus with the West.
Yeah.
Now Arizona in 3 years is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah, they've got so much draft capital. It may take a little longer than 3 years, but
we don't have any big contracts either.
They're going to have to settle where they're going to be.
Yeah, but I mean, our biggest contract right now, I'm pretty sure, is Phil Kessel.
Yeah,
and
just keep feeding hot dogs.
I'm not upset about it.
No.
I like Kessel. I actually do. So
pretty decent season last year.
He had a decent season with a not so decent line.
Yeah.
Clayton Keller is finally starting to show up and look like the second line center he was always destined to be. And we're, whatever.
Don't like the fact that they dealt Connor Garland.
I don't either at all. At all.
I mean,
there's been several guys go in the past few years that have just messed me up. Michael Grabner. How do you get rid of that? That was half of your goal scoring potential on his breakaways.
Yeah.
And Garland should be the captain right now.
Yeah. I don't get why they moved him. What piece did they get back that
Draft.
made was it the draft pick that they got back for
What
him?
it was. That's why.
So basically, they traded OEL for Soderstrom, and who else did they get from Vancouver?
Jay Beagle.
Jamie, yeah,
I like Jay Beagle. I like
I
Jay.
like Jay Beagle.
His name's fun.
Line. It's a
Name's
fourth
fun.
liner. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so who do you have? Who do you think is going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Washington's definitely one of them for me. I think the Washington's going to have a huge season. Hopefully, it starts with a memorial to Tom Wilson after his drunken car crash. Let's just call him how I see him. I hate that guy. Moment of silence for Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson can.
All right, so who are they playing? Who are they playing in the for the Atlantic
Central or for
for
the Atlantic.
Tampa?
I don't think there's another pick. I think it's all Tampa, all day.
I'm going off the reservation. I'm going to take the Islanders and Florida.
I would love to see Florida do it.
I think
I was hoping last year Florida would do it.
I think Florida is going to find out how good Spencer Knight is as a goaltender.
I was talking about the rarity of good goaltenders coming up. I think that Spencer Knight is going to be one of those big name goaltenders that comes up.
Yeah, he's gonna be in the mix for the Calder, and we'll get to the awards here in a moment. But
I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the mix for the Vezina.
Yeah, I mean that could be. What about the Western Conference? Who do you got?
Oh, West. It's kind of hard to say West Coast who it's going to be because there's not really anybody West Coast that I feel, Vegas just the only option for me. I don't think there's anybody that competes with Vegas. The Central's a little bit different. You said you're feeling pretty confident with Chicago.
I'm not really feeling confident from making it.
Who do you think from the Central for finals?
Colorado.
Okay.
I think they finally.
I actually forgot that Colorado was in the Central.
Yeah, I think they finally get over the hump this year.
Well, and hopefully a goaltender change helps, because they did put a lot on Grubauer. I mean, they put a lot on Grubauer.
Yeah, and King Kemper, I mean, that's the linchpin right now is that Kemper's got to stay healthy, and that's been
which is hard for him.
And they just lost their backup. Paulo Francouz was injured. He injured his ankle, so he'll be out for some time. I'm not sure who they're bringing in to who their third stringer is to back that up. But,
they have a pretty deep camp, though.
Well, they brought in a bunch of people because they, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they go with the Toronto Zamboni driver guy.
Yeah, David Ayres.
David Ayres, yeah, bring him in.
Yeah. Of course, I know David Ayres. He's a legend in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, he could. I mean, literally, he could backstop this team to a division title.
All I'm saying is Scott Foster is only like 45 now.
Yeah, good. I mean, that could work too.
Yeah, the year of the E-bug. We thought we saw it. We haven't yet.
Yeah, I've got Colorado and Vegas in the Western Finals. I don't think that anyone else in those two divisions can really challenge. Minnesota will give a little bit of a problem, but I just don't think that there's enough firepower to get past Colorado.
And I said this last year, and I'm still kind of holding to it. Kirill Kaprizov, if Edmonton can be led by McDavid, the way that McDavid has led them since his rookie year, I think we could see the same thing in Minnesota. And Kirill better do what he did last year. For all the money that they just dropped on him, giant contract for a somewhat almost sort of proven rookie.
Yeah. I mean,
But-
he was an older rookie, but still, I mean, he's a rookie.
Well, if you get 5 good years out of him, it doesn't matter when he started.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's going to be the thing for that team is whether or not he has that contract's worth of good years. He probably does.
Yeah. That was a team that was actually in the Eichel conversation for a while with Minnesota. Bring another, because that's the thing with Minnesota. I mean, you got rid of Parise, who definitely on the back year or two of his NHL career. But Joel Eriksson Ek is decent. There's not a whole lot on that forward core to really write home about.
Eriksson Ek is decent at half the price.
Yeah. I mean, he got way overpaid. But yeah, so Colorado, who do you have in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Probably Vegas and Washington.
Ooh, rematch of a couple of years ago. That's a good one. I've got the Islanders, Vegas.
I would love to see Vegas just absolutely drop kick them.
Well, they don't have Reeves anymore, so I mean, that's they got. I mean, you definitely upgraded on the offense because you got Peyton Krebs now, who's that's a guy who's probably going to get the conversation for Rookie of the Year.
And Martinez is coming into his own.
Yeah,
I think that he's severely underrated.
So I mean, we're talking about a team that's not as physical as it was a couple years or even last year, versus a team that's far more skilled than it was last year.
But Cody Glass, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mark Stone, still phenomenal, consistently good. If I think the biggest thing for Vegas is just developing more chemistry with the top 2 core for
it's integrating.
Offense.
Yeah, it's integrating the young guys into the top 6 and getting that chemistry. I agree. All
it takes is one good line. I mean, you look what Colorado did with one good line. Not counting, Burkowski and Kadri and not that second line, but just McKinnon and Landeskog, and then that other guy that we forget. I forget.
McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen.
You don't even need Rantanen. It's whatever. It's McKinnon, Landeskog. It's Draisaitl McDavid, just in a different place. A lot of weed.
All right, so who's your Stanley Cup champion?
I want it to be Vegas. I'm saying Washington.
You're going to see a recently deceased Tom Wilson skate with a cup again.
No, I don't. I hate that Tom Wilson won a cup to begin with.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments in history I just wish never happened.
All right, so my champs are going to be the Islanders. I think they finally do it. I think they break through. It's that Trotz system. It's the defense. If Anders Lee stays healthy, I mean, if Anders Lee stayed healthy last year, I think they would have won that game against Tampa and gotten to the finals. But
they lost their captain. They still did all that without their captain.
Without their captain, we'll see. They got they signed Parise, so Parise's in. Provide some depth scoring. Palmieri, I believe, stayed with the Islanders, so you've got depth scoring there. I think the Islanders have done enough to really put them over the top, especially the Barry Trotz defensive system in the playoffs.
Who is your one player to watch? Who is having their biggest year yet, or their breakout year?
I'll tell you the player that I'm most interested in seeing is Cole Caufield. How does he follow up? How does he follow up that playoff run with the Canadians? It's largely the same team in Montreal, but a full season with Cole Caufield in the top line, I think is going to be very interesting. I think he's going to make a probably won't challenge McDavid, but he'll put up some points this year if he stays healthy. I think everything should be countered with if he just stays healthy.
He's small, man. He's so small.
He is, but he's fearless.
He looks like he's 12.
Yeah, he gets into the dirty areas and will still snipe. So I mean, and here's the thing, because he started, the last 2 or 3 games of the regular season and played all the playoffs, he's eligible for the Calder. That's the guy I've got winning the Calder this year, is Cole Caufield. Although I think he gets challenged by Krebs and Spencer Knight. But I think Caufield will win the Vezina. Or not Vezina, I'm sorry, Calder.
Yeah.
Who do you have who's your breakout player?
Can it be Kirill again?
If it is, man, that's going to be a hell of a season.
50 goals.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying him that much money, that's what you should be expecting out of
50 goals for Kirill.
I'm expecting. We were talking about the goaltending and that it's kind of fallen off a bit. I'm expecting multiple players going over 60 this year.
And I think that Nedeljkovic is going to finally get to prove himself. Even if he doesn't have a good win percentage, I think that his save percentage is going to be insane. If you see 60 shots and you stop 58 of them, you're not a bad goaltender because you lost the game. You're a good goaltender and your team lost the game.
Yeah.
And I think that we could see that. The biggest thing with him is going to be you have to watch him to see how good he is, to see whether or not there were any defensemen on that end of the ice whenever the puck was, because that seems to be a recurring issue in Detroit. That's been a recurring issue in Detroit since they had, Chris Osgood, the way back.
Yeah.
So, I'm really excited to see him just as a general performer. I think that Nedeljkovic could have a really good year. And I'm kind of hoping to see him either be built around in Detroit and be able to hang on for however long it takes for them to actually pull it out, or get traded off to somebody that can use him, that can actively use him, because I hate to see these good guys go to waste, especially in goalies. There's so few of them.
Yeah. Well, who do you have winning the Vezina?
I would say the Vezina this year is, I think you said it too, Spencer. If it's not Spencer this year, probably Valesky again.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to slow down.
I don't think he's going to slow down. I think, the thing with him is that he might fall from the eyes of voters, and the fact that, he plays on Tampa and that they're such a juggernaut. For me, I'm actually kind of going a little strange here, but I think he's part of the reason why the team comes back into the playoffs, and that's Thatcher Demko in Vancouver.
Okay.
I think he really takes the reins. He no longer has to kind of fight for that number one ice, and he's.
I think that was his big problem last year, was he was fighting the hope of Holtby.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he did everything he could in the previous playoffs to, basically carry Vancouver, and he ends up, they bring in Holtby to be the 1A, and it just never worked. It never worked with Holtby, and
Holtby had such a good defense in front of him with the Cavs.
Yeah,
and I kind of relate it to one of my least favorite goalies of all time, Martin Brodeur.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but whenever you're playing the 1-3-1 and you have Scott Stevens in front of you, you don't have to be good. I could have won a cup with that team. I've never played goalie.
I mean, he was, very technically sound goalie. When people say who's the best goalie ever, I'm never going to say Brodeur. Just because
I'm going to say Hasek every time.
Yeah, Hasek. What he did with the team in front of him, that he did it. He was the best.
Hasek and Belfour, that's my two.
And they played on the same team and in the same Stanley Cup and lost that Stanley Cup too.
Yeah. But I think that
So
Broder's big thing that he was so strong with was stopping breakaways. The only way that you could score on the Devils in that time frame was on a breakaway. Because you couldn't get down ice on the Devils unless you left two defensemen dusted, between the Blues.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why he was such a strong player, because he had the right single skill for a team that could cover the rest of the bill.
Yeah. Who do you have for the Norris Trophy? I'll tell you, I got Aaron. Good. Yeah, both are good choices. I think Ekblad, part of that Florida, kind of resurgence, and he stays healthy this season, and we'll see him win the Vezina. Makar, I wouldn't be surprised with Makar. Makar, if
Makar's a safety pick.
Well, the thing is with Makar, here's the thing. The worst award they had last year was the Norris when they gave it to Adam Fox.
Yeah, it was a joke.
That was awful. Like,
nobody
Adam
agreed.
Fox had a great season. Don't get me wrong. Adam
The
Fox
Rangers
had a fantastic season, but they didn't make the playoffs. And Makar was my second, and what's his face from Tampa? Damn it,
Hedman.
Yeah, Hedman. Hedman was my pick for the Vezina, because they both had much better overall seasons and contributed much more to the success of their franchise. Adam Fox just scored a lot of points.
I'll tell you who could really be in the run if I'm right about my cup pick. If he pulls off a year like he used to, like 15, 16, 17, 18,
yeah,
John Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
If John Carlson comes out and plays offensive defenseman like he did years before and pulls off some of the hits that he used to and shows up the way that we were used to seeing John Carlson, he could. I wouldn't – if you told me right now that you could see into the future 2 awards night and John Carlson won the Calder or won the Norris, I would say that it's because the Capitals won the Cup and Carlson was a huge part of it. And I think that that's really what it's going to come down to this year is who performs best in playoffs. You said Dallas. I mean, if Dallas has a good resurgence, then Heiskanen.
Yeah.
Because Miro had, he's the fastest defenseman by a long shot. He was almost as fast as McDavid a few years ago in the All-Stars. And, if he finds somebody to pair up with that they can actually work with, I think that goaltending is going to be a huge issue. But if they put Heiskanen in front of an awful goaltender and he can block shots there for a while, I mean, he was running neck and neck on block shots with Nicholas Hjalmarsson from Arizona. If he can block shots that well and he can stay that fast and end up on some of those defenseman breakaways, which we saw in his rookie year, that he knows how to do it. I mean, unless he's just lost the touch, he can do it. Then, he could definitely be in the run too. It's going to come down to mid-season, late-season playoff performance, just like always with defensemen. Probably whoever has the longest running game streak out of those few guys is going to take precedent over the rest of them. And if they all stay healthy, it's going to be a really interesting race. And I could see this being a year where they actually have 2 or 3 guys where it'll be a cliffhanger on who gets it.
Yeah. My worry is that what we saw with Adam Fox is going to be repeated, and that a guy out on the West Coast is not going to get the Norris because, the media goes to bed. They don't watch the West Coast games. And, a guy like Heiskanen who, he'll get pressed when he plays the Central Division, but when they go out west to play Anaheim, no one's going to stay up to watch that game. I will tell you that is exactly why Adam Fox won that trophy. Is that the media just ate up New York Ranger doing all the stuff that he did, even though they didn't make playoffs.
I wonder how much this ESPN deal is going to change that, because, I mean, we're talking a league that is headed in Toronto, a media that is headed in New York. That's what we've dealt with for the past how many years?
Yeah.
That's what we're used to. That's how hockey works. Media's in New York, league issues and such are in Toronto, and we're used to it. Dude, ESPN has a huge presence in LA. And I don't know if maybe ESPN being in LA is going to bring back a resurgence of West Coast hockey and interest in West Coast hockey. And if it does, then a lot of stuff could go on its head with team favorites. I mean, if you're pulling people from what we're used to with, a lot of your TV stuff based in New York, and now you're spreading a little bit more evenly across not a platform that is based in an area, but a platform that is based in a continent.
Yeah.
I think that could be interesting for a lot of these picks too, for these trophies, because we're going to such a larger platform that has such a higher presence. You turn on ESPN, you're not going to see anything but Warriors and Raiders and Patriots and Tampa and Kansas City, and they're a little more focused than the NHL has been over the past few years. Even in 2010, Vancouver barely got any press that they had made the finals.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I mean, Vancouver makes the finals, and it's just local Vancouver news talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that if they'd have had ESPN, it would have been a big deal, because, you turn on ESPN right now and you're seeing Vancouver lacrosse, you're seeing Vancouver soccer, you're seeing Seattle Sounders soccer, you're seeing a lot.
But there is a concern that I have with ESPN, and that's, stemming from when the last time ESPN had NHL coverage was they picked like 4 teams, and you got force-fed, at least on their national broadcast, you got force-fed Detroit, Colorado, Rangers, even though the Rangers sucked and never made the playoffs, we still saw the Rangers all the time, and Pittsburgh.
But now the thing that really interests me the most is ESPN Plus.
That way you can equal it out, but the casual,
it's a lot more level.
Well, the casual fan who may not want to go on ESPN Plus to watch a hockey game, but will catch something onto ESPN2. If all they're seeing is Detroit, or not Detroit, now it's going to be Tampa and
Seattle.
Yeah, they're going to show Seattle heavy rotation.
They're hot. They're new.
Yeah. Colorado is going to be there. Vegas is going to be there. You're going to see a heavy rotation of those teams. Then, that casual fan is just going to get introduced to those teams, and that's good. I mean,
it's an introduction to hockey.
Yeah, show them the exciting teams, and maybe they'll focus on something that's a little more local. But I don't know. It's good that right now the non-traditional markets are so dominant right now, is that, this does build those markets up. It builds, those communities up that get following from, maybe a fan that's not even anywhere near Tampa, or a fan that's not anywhere near Colorado, but they're going to choose Colorado because they're like, yeah, they're a great team.
It's so interesting too, though, because, Tampa in 07, Martin St. Louis and
Cavalier, and
nobody cared.
Well,
they won a cup. They had a quarter of a pride parade.
Well, that was what 2004 was when they won the cup, and they
04 Saga.
But that was, ironically, that was the last time that ESPN covered hockey. That was the end of their contract. Of course, we had the lockout the next season, which killed the TV deals, and then we had to kind of beg to be on a outdoor life network when we came back after the lost season of 2005. Tampa didn't really get a whole lot of play until they won the cup. I mean, there was talk about Tampa. I mean, of course, you have LeCavalier and St. Louis. They were great players, but all the talk leading up to that Stanley Cup final was the impending strike. Labor relations was such a big thing, and that was kind of a dominant storyline that was going on during that playoff run. Was, hey, this is great, but there's a good chance that they're going to strike for a long time next season. Nobody thought it would go the whole season, but it was, that, and it didn't help that Tampa was playing Calgary.
Yeah, but they
At
had
least in the American.
It was so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary being in the finals is not a bad thing, but when it's a matchup of Tampa versus Calgary, and you're hanging your hat on your ratings for that was kind of a tough one for us to go out on when it came to just before the strike.
The only time that Calgary would be interesting is if they're playing a Canadian team in a Stanley Cup final.
They bring back Lanny McDonald and his big ass mustache. That would be awesome.
But that's, if it was Calgary and Toronto, killer game.
Oh, it'd be, well, I mean, I just don't think Calgary's going to be that good this season. But
no, Calgary's got a long ways to go. But I'm saying, as far as like in general,
oh yeah,
nobody cares. It's not a thing.
Yeah. But anyway, got anything else for us this week?
I think we're pretty well covered, dude.
Oh, you are celebrating your birthday next week.
Is it next week? Yeah.
It would be the
14th, Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday the 14th. So,
which is also opening night for Carolina.
All right.
I won't be there because I have a puppy now. I'm a father. I'm responsible.
So you going to join us next week or no?
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right. Well, we'll talk next week. We'll talk about the first couple games. The first game of Seattle, I'll probably wear my Seattle jersey. Although I think that is the night that Buffalo opens as well. But that's just going to be a trail of tears for me. I'll have to drink some of this liquor behind me.
The continuation of a nightmare. You ever fallen back asleep and went straight back into the same dream you didn't want to have?
Oh, God, yes.
Welcome to the 2021 season.
I know. I'm a Yankees fan, and I was watching the game the other night, and I was like, Yankees, the final out came, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's hockey season. Yay.
I've heard that if you dump a little bit of cocaine in the wind, Derek Jeter will come back and crawl on the mound.
He's in Miami now, so he's got all the coke he needs. All right, man.
Sal and what was the other guy from Cocaine Cowboys? Have you watched that?
No, I've not.
Cocaine Cowboys on Netflix. Highly recommend it.
All right, I'll check it out. All right, well, we will see you then next week. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, or whether you're watching on a delay on YouTube. We appreciate you watching us. Next week, feel free to drop us some comments, and we'll be happy to address them online. So we'll talk to everyone next week.